Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wisdom Wednesday. This is episode 3 of 3. So, if you haven't seen the episode first and second, I would encourage you to watch those two. This is about this grateful after goodbye, from pain to purpose. And this is all about how to rebuild your life after you may have gone through separation and divorce, because I was there in November 2023. I lost my 21 years of corporate job suddenly, and then 2-3 weeks later, suddenly I lost my marriage. So from there, I rebuilt my life, and then I am helping a lot of other people through my books and YouTube and meetup events. So I won't get into the details, but if you're interested, I would encourage you to watch episode 1 and 2. And then finally this one. In today's, I'm going to cover, I have 12 chapters in this book. This book is in the Amazon if you're interested to go deep, but you don't have to. It's totally up to you. But anyway, so here, this is chapter 9, the kindness bridge, how that helped me. And chapter 10, anchored in something greater, and then rebuilding in action. So these are the ones I'm going to talk to you about today. So, when everything falls apart, the first part was about, finding something small every single day to do that will give you that footing under, when you feel like you're on a free fall. For me, it was mindfulness, gratitude. And after that, it was the second part was a big part was like that fighting that inner battle, the inner critic and the inner coach. The inner critic that says you are not good enough. Inner coach, the version, the voice inside you that says you are good and you can conquer the world, right? The things that you'll say to your best friend. So that was the big part of the episode 2 and episode 3, and then letting go, because when you do that, only then you can let go of the inner critic version. Like, it will keep coming back, but what you feed, you kind of learn how to feed the inner coach instead of the critic. And then finally, the third one today is what I'm going to talk about, is the kindness bridge. So as your inner coach learn how to grow, you would notice the kindness around you. There are people, so in my life, like, the smallest example I'll use, there's many other example. One person, I used to go to the libraries a lot, and I would read so many books. I still do a lot of books. I read now, it's a different story. I read probably 10 books at a time. But anyway, I used to go to the libraries, and then one day I was walking out from the library, several books in my hand, and there was this wonderful woman. I don't even know her. She probably has no idea the impact that she made in my life, because it's even in the book. So she looked at me. It was probably a 10 or 15-second exchange, right? She looked at me and she's like, "Oh, I like your shirt." And I just I looked at her and I responded right away, "Oh, I like your shirt too." And it was such a small, like a little exchange, and it made me feel like seen in a way that, or like acknowledged that I felt like I haven't, I mean, this is so small and so little, right? But it makes an impact. I'm telling you, it makes an impact. Because around those days after she did that, I used to make the YouTube videos, which I talk in the second episode, that I was journaling on YouTube, and I said so many times about that experience, because I was maximizing that, because mindfulness is what you notice, and gratitude, you feel grateful that for that, right? You appreciate, you notice the mindfulness, you appreciate, that's the gratitude, and then you share it with your community. And at the time, the community was the YouTube for me. So anyway, so there are so many kindness, example of kindness you would see from my friends. And because my family is all in India, I speak to my mom once a week, but my daughter, she's young, she's now 10. So when I was going through all of this, she was only 7 or 8. So but I dedicate this book to her, because the next part, when I talk to you, you'll know that anchored in something greater. There, for me, God showed up through my daughter in ways that I can't explain, and God is still writing my story still, which is why I just scratched the surface. I don't go too detailed into it yet, because someday I want to write a book about that. So if you end up reading this book, you will see how, as a 7 or 8-year-old, my daughter would say things that I cannot fathom the idea how a 7 or 8-year-old could say these things. So it's almost, sometimes it makes you think that how all of this come into existence, right? Our interaction and conversation with people, and how, sorry, I get emotional about this, because when I wrote this book, my friends, this was probably I have like 16 more books planned, but this was probably the toughest book I wrote, I'll be writing, because this was about my own reinvention journey. And even though I was, I would say, like reinvented, but you know, we always work on ourselves because there's always room for improvement. But I had to go through all of it. It's almost like reliving that experience again. So many times I had to say it out loud that this was in the past, and I'm writing this book to help people. And I'm surprised to see how the book is resonating with people. Even one person who lost their parent is also helping. And when I wrote this book, I actually had only like divorce in mind, right? I did not think as much of somebody losing somebody through death. But divorce is, in some sense, it's sort of like death. Not exactly death, because the person that the same person is not there. I'm sorry. And you guys know, as part of being authentic, I'm not going to cut it. It's going to be there, but these are the emotions that could be there, that even after you are reinvented, emotions are like that. We are human. There is rise and a dip. And when I talk about this, it takes me back there, even if it's for a little bit. I was Hindu all my life, and then I followed Buddhism very deeply for several months, and many unexpected events, unexplainable events, got me into Christianity. And I'm still not a very traditional Christian, because there are people who are Christian tells me I'm not Christian enough, and then there are people who are not Christian thinks I'm very Christian. So I don't try to shrink to fit anymore, because in my corporate world I did that a lot, and I live authentically. And that's what I tell people in my meetup group, that we all have our differences. Where 8 billion people have walked 8 billion unique journeys, and it's not about convincing others. It's about living our full truth and respecting the differences of viewpoints, right? It's all about that. So the community, the meetup community, you guys know it is created as of last May, and there are events going on. If you're interested, check it out. Midlife Reinvention Community on Meetup right now. Almost all the events are in Ashburn. I will start the virtual events at some point in a few months. Also in other cities, we're going to expand it in other cities and things like that. It's a judgment-free zone, and everybody, the whole part is, it's not a group therapy. It's about future focus, right? How it's not about saying bad things about your exes. It's like, in the future, I can, right? We can only control ourselves. We can grow ourselves, like, reinvent our own life, not about the exes. Because in this book, I actually talk about my ex being one of my best teacher, because they are, even in your life, even if you don't believe, because people we are close to, they bring up the challenging parts of our life that we need to work on. In Hinduism, there is a belief that before we are born, we choose our life. Not only not only our parents, but the family will be born, and all the experiences that we will go through even the challenging ones, we choose them. Now, being a Christian, if you ask me, do I still believe that? I don't know. The answer is could be yes, it could be no. And that is where I think some Christian people would say that I'm not a traditional Christian, and that's okay. That's my belief, because, you know, because all of our lives are so different, and there is a beauty in it, because all of our life experiences teaches us how to look at things. It creates the belief, and if it gives you peace, joy, and love in your own heart, that's what you gotta care. And that's what I live my life with, because I tried to shrink to fit for so many years, especially in the corporate world. As I was trying to climb the ladder, I was too strong and it's not too nice. Even by the same boss, I was said at different times, I was too strong and too nice. How is that possible? Now it makes me laugh. But anyway, so the chapter 11, that's the final one. And after that, chapter 12 is there, but that talks about different things. But anyway, so chapter 11, rebuilding in action. So that is about my framework, because the reason I covered that, and it is actually very, very important, because faith is great, but not many people attach with faith so closely. And I understand a lot of it, this is because of the culture, or when you are growing up, you may have, if you're going to the church, you have church hurt, or even if you are Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, or different religion, like, you know, it depends, because our life experiences shape our faith and beliefs. So not everybody looks at it the same way. But a lot of stuff in the self-help is very much like, many people kind of look at it like, you know, self-help or reinventing your life with some framework. It kind of becomes more practical, and for me also that helped. But for me, the faith played a bigger factor, I would say. But anyway, so this, I call it rich quadrant. So the inner coach is the main umbrella, the inner critic and the inner coach. So if you're Christian, the inner coach, think about like Holy Spirit, but it doesn't have to be Holy Spirit. If you're not Christian, you can think of the universe, the higher power, super conscious, or your own like higher self, right? So when that is in action, that is when all the things fall into places, versus your inner critic. So that's the umbrella. Under that, I call something rich quadrant, which is like relationship, ideal life. C is career, H is health. Rich quadrant. And to make it all into work, to expedite it, there is something I call mindfulness triangle, which is the speaking. So the self-help would talk about thinking, feeling, action, right? And it goes in a circle. But in my case, I said thinking, speaking, action, because speaking is what makes it into reality the fastest way possible. So I know I threw a lot of framework stuff to you guys, like the inner coach is the umbrella, the rich quadrant, mindfulness triangle. I'm going to leave the link down below of my website. It's right on my homepage. You can see the framework. So also I do events on my meetup community where I help with fun games, with where people actually say that they find it really, really helpful. The last one was about inner coach versus inner critic, and they commented that they wanted to keep going. So that tells something that it was helpful. But I want you guys to know that, you know, this journey doesn't have to end here. You have to know that the any kind of ending is a doorway to new beginning, right? Any kind of ending is a doorway to new beginning. Just keep going, and the new door will show up for you too, right? And the book 2, Midlife Reinvention, Finding the Inner Light, using this framework, how to use it step by step with stories, is going to be available later this year. But I hope this series, this 3-episode series of The Grateful After Goodbye, was helpful. And if you want to know more detail, the book is available on Amazon. I'm going to leave the link down below. I hope this book helps you and shows you the light that you already carry within you, you know. So take care. Bye.